What's up, guys? Farooqi Bros here, back with another video. And today for you guys, we're going to be talking about the breaking news that's coming out of Deadline today, that Oscar Isaac has been cast as Moon Knight for the Moon Knight Disney Plus Marvel series. And, this move comes on the heels of a couple of moves Marvel's been making, which I thought would make for an interesting discussion between the four of us today about where Marvel is going after Avengers Endgame and what is the trajectory for this universe. Because, the four of us, we talk a lot about where DC is going and we have a good beat on it, but there's a lot of stuff I think we can share with you about how Marvel likes to do things and what they're doing now that the Captain America and Iron Man era of Marvel is over and what they're doing with these new castings. So I'll just jump right into it and I'll kind of give my opinion. And I think that one thing that's very interesting is the types of casting that we're seeing from out of Marvel. And we saw last year, obviously, they cast Mahershala Ali as Blade, right? And Blade is obviously a very dark, rated R type character. He's brutal. He's insane. And obviously Wesley Snipes played him to a T back in the day in the pre-MCU era. And now you got a guy like Mahershala, who's actually a top-tier actor in today's Hollywood, playing him. And it'll make something very interesting. And then today's news sparked me as, okay, you got Oscar Isaac, who's just coming off the Star Wars trilogy. And also he does a lot of stuff outside of it. Now he's doing Moon Knight. And obviously Moon Knight, again, we're talking about a dark character, a character that works like Daredevil in a rated R setting. He's like Batman for Marvel in many ways in terms of the dark aspect of the character. And I'm seeing these high-level castings throughout. And that leads me to think that, what is Marvel's path going forward? And is one of their paths that we want to get high-level actors who do, to quote Martin Scorsese, known as cinema, and bring those guys in the MCU to let them do things either on Disney Plus or in the theatrical model. So then I'll start with Zion. I mean, what do you think about first the casting of Oscar Isaac, but also where Marvel is going, not just with these characters, but with people like Spider-Man? What do you think is the trajectory for Marvel in Phase 4 and beyond?
Yeah, I think like you said, the Phase 4, I mean, when they started the MCU, they chose actually more lesser or questionable actors to play their characters, people like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans. That before that, they either had they didn't have really solid acting grounds, though they did do many roles, and obviously they blew up and became iconic in their roles. And now you can't even imagine seeing somebody else play those characters. But you can see this shift where now they're really going into the more big name actors like DC would, for example, and I think that would really play well for some of these more lesser known characters, such as Moon Knight, where if you're not familiar with Marvel Comics or really ingrained in it, you might not be familiar with what this character is. So bringing somebody like Oscar Isaac or Mahershala Ali for Blade, you really bring in a brand new audience and a brand new set of people who'll be like, I like this actor, so let me see what this is about. And that's something that they can obviously work for and work to make better for their franchise. And I think it's great. It'll even bump their streaming platforms even more. I know that's become like the focus for Disney after their big announcement. So with big name actors and projects that they feel very strongly about, I think just meshing those two together will bring a lot of success to Marvel.
I think, for the one thing that it comes down to is kind of strategy and what strategy means. We spent a little bit of time talking about the multiverse strategy and if that's helpful or not, which led to obviously a huge discussion on Spider-Man and what it means for Tobey and Garfield if they were to come back. But even if Tobey and Garfield come back, it screams the same sense of Marvel is trying to get big actors to come back to play big roles and to get people excited in a way they weren't as excited for, let's say, in Phase 2 or Phase 1, because Phase 4 feels like a rebuilding year in a sense after Endgame. So I want you and your perspective, Umar, to tell me what are your take on this? Because I know after Endgame, you told us on the podcast that, listen, now it's time for DC to shine because Marvel kind of did so many things now. There's not much left to do. But now we're seeing they have some things cooking. So give me your perspective on this whole thing so far.
I think I agree with you. It is for them what we would call in basketball terms a rebuilding year. They're going to rebuild the roster of characters that they want to showcase now. I think mainly I think fans want to see them take risks really. And I think that it's the perfect, like now that you've already established, your legacy in a sense, now you can take shots, you can take risks, right? And you can try to bring back actors, do like things with the multiverse, So basically, yeah, I guess like it's more for them. I would like to see more risks being taken, and I think one of the risks that I think even the MCU fans would agree with is that the tone of the films can be different as well. Now that you're going in different directions, I think that it would be cool to see maybe darker movies maybe, and having like a more of a palette on in terms of tone, because you're not really working now towards maybe one big event film right away. I think you're gonna do a bunch of solo movies. I think the only event film is Spider-Man if that goes through. So that I think that would be like the big event film. But other than that, I think taking risks and from a tone aspect, allowing directors to do whatever they want as much as possible. So I think those would be, something for them to think about.
Right, and speaking on tone, obviously, we kind of come back to the main news hook of this discussion, which is Moon Knight and what Moon Knight means. He's a lesser known character, but for those who know the character, know that there's a lot of interesting themes to him and a lot of like darkness that comes out of the character, and that brings to Oscar Isaac. I know, Samir, a few times you've said that when we did our podcast about what Disney Plus series you're most excited for, you mentioned that Moon Knight was actually one of your most anticipated series for Disney Plus. So now that you know that Oscar Isaac is playing, one, how do you feel about the casting, and two, do you think they're going to go dark with the story, or they're going to stay light the way we know Disney Marvel to be?
Well, Oscar Isaac is a great actor, and considering how the Moon Knight character is, I hope they go dark. And just going back to Marvel's casting, like Umar said about the dark movies, they're also bringing the Sony universe into the MCU, like Morbius and Venom 2, which is going to be rated R. And Marvel's also casted like a great cast for the Eternals and whatnot. So I'm excited for the future of the MCU. I hope they go dark with some of the movies, but I assume they're going to stay, with their regular formula since it's been working a lot. And so just excited to see what happens.
Right. I think overall, I think all the points we touched kind of hit on the same thing, where I think Umar made actually the best analogy that I which I thought of myself, so I could steal it. But the idea of this being a rebuilding year and it being a year where you retool and you refigure out what are your main players, who your stars are, and obviously Tom Holland will be the main star for them going forward. But who you're supporting him with, and when you're building the new Avengers, obviously you're going to build towards these characters, and it's very interesting to see what happens to who they bring, because there's times where Marvel will try to get dark with Daredevil, but that was a Netflix thing, and they weren't directly attached to it. So now what they're going to do with Moon Knight, what they're going to do with Blade, how do you make them light characters? I'll be very, very confused if they do. So it'll be interesting. I'll be very interested to see what's going on, because there's also rumors happening about Hugh Jackman. There's some floaters in the air. So I'm going to see we're going to see as they release new information of what's happening. But Comic Book Debate will be covering it all the way. Question is, what do you guys think about the casting of Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight? Let us know in the comments below and join the debate. From myself, from Zayan, from Umar, and from Samir, we're the Farooqi brothers, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.